We have breaking news. In just a few hours at 9 p.m. Eastern, President Donald Trump will deliver a primetime speech on, quote, free and fair elections. Newsmax will be taking that speech live. And speaking of the Trump administration, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt is back from maternity leave. Today, she held her first press briefing since returning.
Shout out to my husband, who's home with our babies right now. I look forward to returning home later to be with them, but it's challenging. But for me, I view this as more than a job. I view this as public service.
We're going to have more on that in just a moment, and a chilling warning from Iran. The billboard you see on your screen is in central Tehran. As you can see, it is a picture showing President Trump lying in an open black coffin. We're going to have more on that later this hour. And wildfires are tearing through Canada and Minnesota. The smoke is still billowing into the United States, causing hazardous air quality alerts for millions of Americans. Bill Manuel with the National Weather Service said this about the dangerous Minnesota wildfires.
Odds are these fires will be here until it snows.
And it's not just wildfires. Mother Nature is unleashing on the state of Texas. There are flash flood emergencies. Right now, about half a year's worth of rain has already fallen in southern Texas. We're going to have more on that later in the show. I'm Greta Van Susteren. This is The Record. Talk about a busy day. Today, President Trump started his day by meeting with newly confirmed South Carolina Senator Darlene Graham Nordone. On Tuesday, Nordone was sworn in to complete her late brother Lindsey Graham's Senate term. Following that meeting, the president hosted El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele. According to the White House, the two leaders discussed national security goals. And tonight, at 9 p.m. Eastern, the president will deliver a primetime address from the White House. The topic, we are told, is free and fair elections. But it's not just the president who's had a busy day. Today, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt returned to the press briefing room podium following a very brief maternity leave.
We should have the safest and most secure elections in the history of the world. And what the president will be speaking about tonight will show you that perhaps that is not the case, and we need to make some adjustments moving forward. They were not to fire on commercial vessels moving through the Strait of Hormuz, and unfortunately, they have made the tragic decision for them to do that. And President Trump is not going to sit by and allow these active acts of terrorism to take place in the Strait without ensuring Iran pays consequences for that, and that's what we are witnessing right now. We look forward to the final match on Sunday, and I know the president looks forward to attending, but I think the world saw that this president and this country is able to put on the greatest show in sports. Former
Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum joins me. Nice to see you, sir.
Good to see you. It's good to see her back.
It's nice to see her. I mean, that's very brief.
Yeah, but she was missed. I mean, there's no question. She does a great job in getting the president's message out in a way that, you know, connects with people. So
she's also tough as nails with the press. She controls them.
I'd say she does a great job.
All right. The president speaking tonight. Where he speaks in the White House might have some significance. Is it going to be in the Oval Office? Is it going to be somewhere? I mean, tell me, what's your thought on this?
The president generally likes to stand. He's tall, and I think he likes to like that. He likes to sort of walk up to a podium. You don't see him give many addresses behind the resolute desk. That might be, you know, a change that could, you know, a point of emphasis. You know, I'm the president, and but generally he likes to walk in and walk up to the podium and talk. So we'll wait and see whether he does the same thing or something different. The issue he's talking about is a popular issue: voter ID, election integrity. Certainly, Republicans care a lot about it, and he's trying to energize people for the midterms. But generally, voters in general, I mean, the majority of Democrats support voter ID for requiring voter ID for election. So the subject matter is a good subject matter for him to talk about. The question is he going to look back?
Is he going to veer back to 2020?
And is it going to be a grievance, or is it going to be, look, here's what we found out happened, here's why it happened, here's what we can do to fix it? If it's that kind of speech that's sort of looking forward-looking and projecting from what happened, as opposed to, you know, John Ossoff lost his race and he shouldn't be, that's not going to go over as well.
See, I think even doing it like you proposed, like, you know, here's what it was and here's what we're going to do, I think is going to run afoul of a lot of Democrats. They're going to hate that, and I think there's some Republicans who are worried about races because immediately people are going to seize upon that and say he's still mad about 2020.
Yeah, again, he's got to thread a needle here if this is going to be a positive thing. And he may have very hard evidence. We don't know what he has, but if he has something that's and it's really hard to do on election day because it's one day and it's not easy to find fraud as we've seen. But if he's able to nail something down and he has a specific remedy to how to fix that, I think he can get away with it. I mean, not get away with it. I think it'd be a positive thing for him.
You think every network's going to carry it? I
doubt it. I mean, I think they're going to look at it as Trump is going back and trying to relitigate the fact that he lost the 2020 election. And I don't think, I think a lot of them will not carry it. Certainly the broadcast networks. Obviously, cable will cover it. But I'd be surprised if the broadcasts cover it.
Is it going to be a speech or a rally? And is it going to be more than an hour? I mean, he likes, once he gets going, he doesn't have an audience here on this. It's going to be, he won't have people.
Yeah, he tends, when he doesn't have an audience, he tends to keep it relatively short. When I say relatively, I mean, less than a half an hour. Again, in this case, he's coming in to talk about this. I can't imagine, given what's going on in Iran, that he might veer off and talk about that and bring the nation up to speed on that. But I don't think I'd be surprised if this is a rambling talk.
All right, states run their own elections, not the federal government.
That's correct.
And the President's SAVE Act requires that there be voter ID. Can the feds impose upon the states that requirement?
That's a good question because, they can with respect to federal elections. So they can require, that's the hook. They can't control state elections, local elections, but they can control federal elections. And so you can say, well, wait a minute, if you require ID to register to vote for federal elections, you're not going to have a separate ID. Well, you could. I mean, the states could have separate standards. In fact, some communities allow illegals to vote and allow them to register under a different process. So you could bifurcate. I think in the end, I've always been for the federal government incentivizing good behavior, and that's maybe what the president's going to do here. One of the things they're talking about in the reconciliation bill is providing a pot of money to distribute to the states to, if you do voter ID, we'll give you billions of dollars or whatever. I don't know how much it'll be, but certainly a substantial amount of money to help you, transition or provide free IDs, whatever the case may be. So that may be the way to do it, is more of a carrot and stick approach as opposed to a mandate.
I'll never forget the time when I was going to Bangladesh and changing planes in Qatar, Doha, and I went and got $100 out of the ATM machine. And within seconds, my bank here in Washington registered, and it was just right. And I could never understand that we can't do the voting, but I can take money out of my bank account halfway around the world, and it's registered immediately.
Yeah, one of the things that is a strength of the American voter system is that every state does it differently. Every county within the states, a lot of states do it differently, and it makes it harder to rig an election, particularly a national election, if you have so many systems doing it different ways.
See, I would think the opposite. I think it'd be easier to rig it if everyone's got on. No one knows who's on first.
Well, it's easier if there's one system. If you can hack into the one system, you've taken over the election. Here, it's just harder because they're all different.
Senator Rick Santorum, nice to see you. Thank you, sir.
Greta.
Coming up, when will the skies turn blue? Millions are still dealing with dangerous, smoky, dark air, plus nearly a year's worth of rain in Texas, and now all that rain has turned deadly. That when the record continues.
A Social Security update. Millions collect Social Security, but 70% of Americans don't get their full benefits. Now, a new report shows how to boost your Social Security by as much as $188,000. Author Matthew Allen reveals 5 key strategies in a new report. Newsmax calls it the best guide for retirees. Everyone needs this free Social Security report. Act today to get your full benefits.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dry premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked, and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed, and you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, You don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
My dad has never been in better shape. He had a stroke and passed away. He had a life insurance policy. Ethos.com. In 10 minutes, you can be covered with life insurance.
Check your price today at ethos.com.
Mother Nature is ferocious, sometimes mean and sometimes deadly. In Texas, there is catastrophic flooding due to heavy rainfall. One river in just 30 minutes surged 16 feet. The floods have cut off roads and neighborhoods. And according to Texas Governor Greg Abbott, already at least one person has died.
The waters will continue to rise. There's a very simple saying that must be heeded, and that is, turn around, don't drown. Do not go close to any river or river basin or even any tributary coming out of that river at this time, knowing that we are dealing with excessive flash flood situations that would compromise any life.
Texas Land Commissioner Dawn Buckingham joins me. Commissioner Buckingham also served as a state senator representing the area where floods are hitting. Nice to talk to you. And Mother Nature is not someone that you can stop. So what can the state government do to help these people?
Well, we're seeing it in our thousands of first responders that are boots on the ground. They've been doing this for several days now because the different waters in the different rivers have been peaking on different days. But we're seeing rivers up 30 feet, waters we haven't seen since the 70s. And in some places, a whole year's worth of rain in just a very short period of time. So we're taking it very seriously. It is terribly tragic that we've had one person die, but what we're seeing is the first responders doing rescues and saving a whole lot of lives.
It's a big country. In different parts of the country, you have different problems with Mother Nature. In Louisiana, for instance, they can build bigger levees if they have the time and the money. Is there anything you can do with your low-lying land in these rivers? Is there anything that you can build for the future to protect these areas?
Well, we've been working on early warning systems. The water tends to come up quickly and then go back down quickly, which is helpful. Unfortunately, big levee systems don't work in our very small rivers and streams most of the time. And when you get that amount of rain on rocky soil, it just accumulates very rapidly. And there's a physicality to water that is hard to understand until you've seen that wall of water come pushing down the stream. But where people are acting great, they're staying put where they should stay put. They're seeking higher ground where they should seek higher ground. Our first responders are doing an amazing job. Everybody's just been on spot, being sure that people aren't driving through the flooding waters. But I'll echo again what Governor Abbott said: turn around, don't drown. Do not drive into any kind of flood water, especially at night when it's so hard to figure out how deep it is. Most people don't realize that just 6 inches can sweep 6 inches of water over a road can sweep a car down the river. So for now, all things considered, we're doing pretty well, but hopefully the rains are about wrapped up, although it's still raining a little bit in some of these areas. But we're going to keep on guard, keep our first responders going strong, and we'll get through this.
And once the water does recede, though, there's a terrific amount of damage and stuff that you have to recover from. And I don't know if you have problems with mold and mildew and all that, but I mean, the water there is just the first step of the problem. You've got another step once the water recedes.
Yes, it's the mud, it's the mold, it's the snakes, it's getting the drywall and the carpet out. It's a whole lot of things. And we're seeing it's a massive area that's flooding right now. Potentially bigger than some states in geographic area. It's 59 counties that are under a disaster alert. So we're keeping pretty busy right now.
Well, Missouri, Southwest Missouri is also taking a beating. Is FEMA helping you? Has it been declared a federal disaster area, so at least the people of Texas have some help?
Well, I'm not entirely sure about that, but we have the Texas Department of Emergency Management, which is, of course, the state arm of FEMA. They have been very, very active. Nim Kidd, who heads that up, is an exceptional individual, former firefighter or current firefighter. And so we're in the response is good, and we'll see what help the feds come behind us and give us.
There's a terrible flood recently, that school that flooded a few years ago. Is that the same area of the state where all those kids were?
Yes, this is the same area where we had the summer camps, where we had the 27 young ladies who died, terribly tragic, and then a few hundred other people all along those rivers. So this is the same area. The flood sirens have been going off. The first responders are very active. Everybody is very much paying attention to all of this, and being sure that we have as little loss of life as is absolutely possible.
Well, what do you do if you have a siren? Just go to the upstairs? I mean the water, if you have 16-foot surges, you've got a big problem.
Well, especially when you get to that 20, 30-foot surge, all of a sudden you're in your attic and the water's coming up. So we are definitely rescuing people out of their attics. We've had some people up in the tops of their homes. So there is definitely that. There's, I can tell you the ranch that's been in my family for well over 100 years, the water's never gotten into the house. I think this time it's going to get into the house. So it's scary what water does in the rocky soil that we've got through central Texas. And you're right, Mother Nature's a tough one sometimes.
Yeah, it's really lousy, but I must admit that brings out the best in everybody. Our neighbors help neighbors, and I mean, that's, in a horrible situation. Dawn Buckingham, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
That's right. It's time for our Soundbite Shuffle. Learn it all in just a few seconds. And today on Capitol Hill, former Attorney General John Ashcroft testified on behalf of Attorney General nominee Todd Blanche. Secretary of State Marco Rubio calling out communism. Vice President J.D. Vance commenting on the Republican Party. And then on TMZ DC, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar calling a photo by a colleague fake. And the former First Lady Joe Biden continues to discuss President Biden's catastrophic 2024 presidential debate. Here it is.
You have incredible credibility, incredible character,
incredible credibility is kind of almost like Senate speak.
Right, but
unbelievable believability. I mean,
no.
Yes, I was in this body myself and sat on that side of the dais, but
you stood up to the president and didn't cave. I respect that, and I believe that's the obligation and the burden of whoever serves as our Attorney General. Mr. Blanche does not share that.
I thank you for that respect. I hope when I grow up I live to do things right.
Communism does not sound good in theory. The world it envisions for all of us is small, flat, gray, leveled of all exception. The world it envisions is a world without courage, a world without creativity.
Republicans still fundamentally have a cool problem, right? There's something more charismatic, more cool about the Democrats as opposed to the right.
It's been a few days since Mitch McConnell posted his proof of life photo from the hospital, and some people are just not buying it.
It looked like it was AI generated.
Do you think it was?
It certainly looks like it.
We're walking off the stage and Joe says to me, Jill, I really, excuse the expression, effed up, didn't I? And I said, yeah, Joe, you did.
Coming up, is there a shift in the Democratic Party as it relates to Israel? That when the record continues.
Greg Kelly over at Newsmax. The Newsmax people have been really terrific. Newsmax has been terrific.
President Trump is right. Millions are watching Newsmax and Greg Kelly. Tune in tonight.
Hi, I'm Sally with sellmypolicy.com, the fast concierge service here to help you sell your life insurance policy for cash now. Our experienced team makes it fast and easy for you to get your offer. Use the money however you want. John sold his policy for $590,000 in cash for health care. And Cheryl sold her policy for $90,000 in cash and used it to supplement her retirement income. If you are over 65 with a life insurance policy of $100,000 of coverage up to $50 million of coverage, then you may qualify. With Sell My Policy, some people choose to sell all or just part of their policy so they can access cash now while also keeping coverage in place for their loved ones. Plus, you'll get paid fast. Trusted by seniors, there's no obligation to sell. Find out what your policy is worth today.
It's fast and free with Sell My Policy.
Talk with a policy
policy expert now to see how much cash you could receive. Call 800-910-2274 or visit sellmypolicy.com.
Every 8 minutes, a claim of sexual assault is filed against rideshare drivers.
But rideshare companies prohibit both drivers and riders from carrying firearms to protect themselves.
Imagine this banana was a less lethal device capable of incapacitating an attacker in a fraction of a second and allowing you to escape.
At Byrna, we don't sell bananas. Go to Byrna.com to find out how you can always be prepared to defend.
Hello, this is Franklin Graham. Samaritan's Purse is responding to the deadly earthquakes that struck Venezuela on the 24th of June, 2 back-to-back earthquakes. Hundreds and thousands of people have been injured. Thousands of people are missing. The people are hurting. Samaritan's Purse has taken a field hospital. We've got doctors and nurses, and we're responding right now to the people that have lost so much. We've taken water purification. We've taken solar lights, a lot of things. We need your prayers and we need your help. God bless you.
Most people call Leaf Filter when their gutters are clogged and they notice one of the many issues that can bring. You can get ahead of costly damage by protecting your home's gutters today.
Schedule your free inspection today. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
Ponvory is approved for the treatment of relapsing forms of multiple sclerosis in adults. Ponvory lowers the number of white blood cells, lymphocytes, in your blood. Usually, this will return to normal within 1 to 2 weeks of stopping treatment. Ponvory can increase your risk of serious infections that can be life-threatening and may cause death. Ponvory can cause your heart rate to slow down, especially after you take your first dose. Do not take Ponvory if in the last 6 months you had a heart attack, unstable angina, stroke, or other severe heart conditions, including certain types of abnormal heart rhythm. The most common side effects of Ponvory include upper respiratory tract infections, elevated liver enzymes, and high blood pressure. Starting treatment with Ponvory will begin with the starter pack. Ask your doctor about Ponvory or visit ponvory.com to learn more. By Vanda Pharmaceuticals.
New developments with Iran. Today, President Trump announcing the release of a U.S. citizen wrongfully detained in Iran since December. The president called the Americans' release, quote, a gesture of goodwill by Iran, end quote. But it is hardly roses and sunshine between the two nations. Yesterday, in the heart of Tehran, Iran's capital, a large billboard went up. It shows President Trump lying in a coffin. This as Iran continues to threaten to kill President Trump. Meanwhile, back here in the U.S., there is division among Democrats and a seismic shift within the Democratic Party. Yesterday in the House, more than 100 Democrats voted to block military aid to Israel, but the proposed amendment to block billions in military assistance to Israel failed in a 314 to 104 vote. Earlier, I spoke with Pennsylvania Democratic Senator John Fetterman. Senator, nice to talk to you again, sir.
Yes, likewise. Thank you for having me on.
Senator, it's been drip, 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 drip of anti-Semitism in this country. We've seen it grow on college campuses, on streets, and now we have this, what I would describe as almost a seismic shift inside the House of Representatives, where 104 Democrats want to cut the funding from Israel. Your thought about this?
Yeah, well, without a doubt. I mean, look at the kinds of chaos that happened on the college campuses all across our nation. And you had students taking over buildings and terrorizing Jewish students. As a Democrat, I absolutely supported when the Trump administration held a lot of these universities fully accountable, including my own alma mater too, at Harvard too. So to be clear, that's not something I'm surprised to witness, but it's thing I've been warning within the Democratic Party. We in the Democratic Party are going to back away from Israel and not defend the Jewish community in our nation. And that's here we are. We have that manifestation with that vote yesterday. And now you look at the kinds of the polling. Now that Quinnipiac poll had 77% of Democrats have negative views on Israel. And I'm proud to be in the very small minority that's very proud to stand for Israel. I'm always going to.
Well, 2 years ago on a similar bill, there were 37 Democrats that wanted to eliminate the funding. Now it's 104. That's a huge. That's not just a slight trend. That's a huge number. I'm thinking of.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, but, you have Democrats now, and like J Street, now they're made things that would be unthinkable. We won't even vote to support Iron Dome. And for people watching, Iron Dome is a purely defensive system that blocks and destroys incoming rockets from places like Hamas or from Hezbollah. Those cowards fire rockets at civilians. These were not military kind of targets. They fire it at Israeli cities, and Iron Dome protects that, and it saved tens of thousands of lives. Now, Democratic Party and J Street has made it acceptable to vote against supporting that thing. That's a huge betrayal for me. As I've said, I'm not surprised, but it's sad to see that, and I've been very clear. This will be the vote, and this voice will remain firmly on the side of Israel and call it out on my side. And you have many Democrats now are campaigning with trash like Hassan Piker. Hassan Piker, he's proud to stand with Hamas. He described Hamas 1,000% better than Israel. And we have Democrats that are campaigning with these people. Now, if you're willing to openly engage with people that are pro for Hamas, that's a testament to how things continue to slide within my party.
The thing I think that you just said, and I just want to emphasize again, that this money is for defensive weapons, defensive things like the Iron Dome. It's just to protect Israel so Israel can survive. I think that, we can't say that enough. But what about Senator Schumer, the minority leader, is Jewish? What is he saying about any of this? I realize this vote was in the House, but is he saying anything?
All I'm saying, I can speak for myself. I've been proud to stand with the prime minister in Israel, and now we have a war and we have to pick sides. If I'm going to criticize anyone 100% time, I'm only going to criticize and call out Hamas, Hezbollah, and especially Iron too. I thought it was a great thing that the Trump administration decided to bomb and to destroy the nuclear facilities in Iran last year. And now I've been the only Democrat to vote against the War Powers Amendment, because I think Democrats, we've all used to say, we can't ever allow Iran to build a nuclear bomb. And that's why I continue to support this idea. We can't abandon the nuclear dust. That's the one thing why I've only supported that. That makes Israel more secure and makes our entire region more secure. Now, if Iran became a nuclear power, you can even imagine how expensive gas could be. They could charge anything that they want at the Strait if they were a nuclear power. Nuclear weapons would make them untouchable. Thankfully, right now, the Trump administration continues to pummel them into submission.
How do we reverse this trend? Because as I started this interview, I pointed out how everything is drip, 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 and now we're taking this huge leap within the Democratic members of the House of Representatives, 104 of them. How do we stop that? How do we arrest this trend?
It won't stop. In fact, if anything, it's going to accelerate. Look at the people that have won. They've anti-Israel, anti-American, anti-Western civilization overall. Yeah, hey, right there on your screen. Look at some of the crazy thing that she said. She's the person that she would wipe her mouth with the American flag. So yeah. Here's more like socialism. Socialism, it's one of those, they say bad ideas refuse to die. And here we're back now. And on another network, I'd say a couple months ago, I said our party's going to become an orgy of socialism. And now we're arriving at that.
But it's stunning, and and not enough attention is being paid for this, because this has got to stop, this growing anti-Semitism in this country. Anyway, Senator, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Greta, for having me.
This next goes under the headline, Things You Cannot Make Up. Earlier this week, Republican write-in candidate for Florida's 5th Congressional District, William Upham, took to X to say this.
This is a message to all of God's children in our country. We must defend ourselves against all enemies. We are at war with evil. This is a war between God and the Antichrist. There is no doubt in my mind that the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, is the Antichrist. He is a false Messiah, and he is your enemy, and he must be killed.
Right after Upham posted that video on X, the United States Marine Corps took to its official X account and condemned Upham. Their post reads, quote, "The Marine Corps is aware of these disturbing statements made by William Upham, who was medically discharged on May 30th, 2025. The comments made by Upham are a direct violation of the oath he swore to uphold and are not in keeping with the service's values," end quote. Coming up.
Did Jack Smith read my emails?
I'm not sure, Senator. I don't know.
Would you check for me?
We will check, Senator, yes.
Did he get emails of Senator Grassley talking about his corn harvest and all that?
Former Special Counsel Jack Smith is accused of secretly obtaining text messages from 44 members of Congress. Why? I will ask one of the Congress members whose text messages were obtained. That when the record continues.
Remember Joe Biden? He was totally lost, had no idea where he was. And the big media, they knew it, but they covered for it. We deserve the truth, all of us.
Watch Greg Kelly Reports, only on Newsmax.
This isn't your average pill. This is Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks.
Rose Sparks is a fast-acting solution because it dissolves under your tongue.
Rose Sparks.
Guys, get started today.
Connect with a provider to find out if Rose Sparks are right for you.
Now, tirzepatide for weight management is available in a dissolvable tablet. It's not the injection and doesn't offer the same strength or clinical evidence as the injectable form, and results will differ from the injection. But for patients who don't want shots, this tablet option is worth exploring. Understanding results will differ from the injection. Tirzepatide tablets are a prescription that starts with a telehealth evaluation by a licensed physician who reviews your health history. And if it's right for you, they prescribe it. This might be worth a conversation.
Every day, bumps and bangs happen. Bruises are optional. Use daily dermatologist-recommended Dermend and reduce the appearance of bruises. Get Dermend Moisturizing Bruise Cream in the first aid aisle.
It's me, Ricky. You know me. You grew up with me. I'm 56 and a half years of age. I am using this right here, Fatty 15, to get me to feel and look the best I've ever felt at my age. The C15 nutrient in Fatty 15 has been known to strengthen our cells and slow the aging process at a cellular level. And it is a game changer for your overall vitality. I urge you to try Fatty 15. Give your cells what they need and give yourself a chance with more time.
Hi, I'm Gary Player. I'm a professional golfer. I've won 165 pro tournaments, but what means more to me than all of this is my ability to give back and do good.
You're an incredible human being, but you joined the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. You see the work we're doing.
I mean, what you do is fantastic. Tunnel to Towers is working every day to support America's greatest heroes. Please donate $11 a month at T2T.org.
The summer of flooring savings at Lumber Liquidators ends soon, but not before more deals drop to help you finish your next project. Save over 20, 30, 40, 50% on hundreds of varieties, like waterproof luxury vinyl plank from 69 cents a square foot, or 15 types of 5mm waterproof vinyl plank click flooring starting at $1.99 a square foot, plus unfinished solid hardwood just 99 cents a square foot. Hurry, sale ends July 21st. Start shopping nationwide or online at lumberliquidators.com.
If your roof looks like this, your home is at risk. A new metal roof from Erie Home withstands wind up to 120 miles per hour and hail up to 2 inches, all backed by a 50-year warranty. Call now for 50% off installation. Get your free estimate now.
There are things you can do every day to take care of your brain. Exercising, eating well, getting plenty of sleep, staying mentally active, and staying connected with friends and family are all great for your brain. Prevagen can help supplement these good habits because it's made for your brain. Add Prevagen to your daily routine and give your brain the care it deserves. Prevagen, for your brain.
Iowa's U.S. Senator and Chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Chuck Grassley, says former Special Counsel Jack Smith obtained text messages from 44 Congress members. 40 are Republicans, 4 are Democrats. The list of those members is on your screen. Yesterday, I asked Professor Alan Dershowitz about this.
Jack Smith has been playing it very, very free and loose, and I can see how members of Congress would be concerned about having their personal records subpoenaed. Courts have to play a very active role in making sure that subpoenas are proper, because there's too much power to issue subpoenas.
Yesterday, I spoke with Democratic Washington Congressman Adam Smith. His text messages were obtained by Jack Smith. This was his view. Nice to see you, sir. And do you know why your texts were obtained?
I do not. I mean, at the time in question in 2019, I was working to pass the National Defense Authorizing Act, 2019 and 2020. So I texted with various people at the White House, basically about the final deal. You know, what were they going to need, what we were going to need, how we were going to get it done. I think this was probably 2020, actually. So it's when I would have been working with Mark Meadows. There were a variety of different issues going on. Now, why those would be deemed relevant to Jack Smith's investigation, I have no idea.
Does it disturb you or bother you that your texts were obtained?
No, it doesn't in the following sense. If the Justice Department is pursuing a legitimate investigation, and look, this is the great flaw in where Trump is coming from on all of this, is the notion that this wasn't a legitimate investigation. You know, we saw what happened on January 6th. We saw everything Donald Trump tried desperately to do in November, December, into January of 2020 and 2021 to overturn a legitimate election. That needed to be investigated. And look, if the Justice Department wants to subpoena records to do that and they happen to be mine, I'm fine with it. Now, there are restrictions. They shouldn't make it public, okay? They shouldn't use it as part of a personal vendetta. But the notion that all Jack Smith was doing was pursuing a personal vendetta against Donald Trump after we saw what happened on January 6th, after his phone calls into Arizona and Georgia to try to overturn, to try to find, I forget the number of votes, this was a legitimate investigation. I'm not sure saying where it would have necessarily come out, but the Justice Department had legitimate reasons to investigate this and to use their subpoena power to gather the information that they thought necessary.
Is there any point where it would have been too much for you? I mean, like, suppose they'd gone after your wife or your family members' text because you were communicating with them. Is there any line there? And who gets to make that determination?
Yeah, well, the Justice Department is, I mean, if they're doing an investigation, they got to get warrants for all of this stuff. They got to go through the courts, they got to go through judges and get broad authority to do this. So yeah, there's lines all over the place in terms of what is a legitimate part of an investigation. But I've seen no evidence that Jack Smith was pursuing things for reasons that weren't legitimate. I mean, yeah, no, if he was like, going after, I don't know, someone he didn't like from law school or something, just wanted to see what he was up to and, say, well, here's an excuse, I can go look at his phone records. Yeah, that's a problem. But if it was within the confines of an investigation into Donald Trump's effort to overturn the legitimate outcome of the 2020 election, then no, I don't have a problem with that.
Who gets to make the decision? Who gets to make the decision how far is too far in getting records like that?
Yeah, I think, and I'd have to, I am a lawyer, but I haven't practiced in years. I'd have to go back to see exactly, you got to get a court order, first of all. Justice Department does have some leeway within various different bounds of evidence collection. But, you got to go to a judge, you got to get a warrant, you got to make your case. And that's what I think is most concerning about what Trump's Justice Department is doing, is they're deciding, I don't like this person, go find something on them. As opposed to, I hear a crime might have been committed, we need to investigate it. And again, that's the big thing here to me. Jack Smith didn't wake up and say, hey, I want to try to find something on Donald Trump. He had a set of facts in front of him about Trump's efforts to overturn the election, and he investigated it. That's what the Justice Department is supposed to do. Now, yes, within a legitimate investigation, you can't just grab everything. And I think it's worth it to look into this. Did Jack Smith go outside the bounds of what the court said allowed him to do? Yeah, I think, we should find that out.
I guess the thing is that I come from a different background as a criminal defense attorney, and I know all judges rubber stamp anything gets put in front of them for search warrants all the time, and so I'm a little more skeptical. Same thing with FISA court and everything else like that. I don't like the idea of the unsort of the unfettered
I'm a former
discretion.
prosecutor.
Yeah.
I'm a former prosecutor, so I was on the other side. I always thought the judges were too deferential to the defense in blocking evidence. So, I guess it's a matter of your perspective.
Well, I guess then the same thing almost with this is that I guess you wouldn't have any problem with this current Justice Department doing the same thing that the other Justice Department did with obtaining telephone records of 44 members of Congress now or somebody.
If they had a legitimate reason for doing that. We have a number of members of Congress who have been under investigation. Well, Senator Bob Menendez, okay, there was plenty of evidence that he had committed a crime. So, yeah, Justice Department should be able to go after that. There's a number of other members who are being investigated.
But you weren't committing a crime, and your record was taken. That's the problem.
But that happens in investigations. And Greta, you know this. Let's say that Bob Menendez on the investigation was on a congressional trip with 5 other senators, and they know Bob Menendez did something wrong. What do those 5 other senators know about it? What did he communicate to them at that point? It is legitimate, and you would, I certainly think, agree to this. It is legitimate to investigate people who you know are not guilty, not investigate, to look at the records from people who you know are not guilty of any crime, but there could be information contained in their records that produce evidence on somebody who did. You know that. You're allowed to look at stuff from innocent people.
I think you now have to have a further discussion on the speech and debate clause, and when you go ahead and subpoena the records of sitting members of Congress, and how that's even different from just subpoenaing anybody's records. But we'll have another discussion on that another day. I'm just glad to have you back on the show. Congressman Adam Smith, thank you, sir. Protests erupting in Ukraine. Some Ukrainians are angry over the ouster of its popular defense minister, Mikhailo Fedorov. The 35-year-old Fedorov is popular among young Ukrainians. He has been credited with improving Ukraine's military performance against the larger Russian army. Fedorov was in the post for only 6 months. President Volodymyr Zelensky made the decision to oust the defense minister. Zelensky says there was friction between Fedorov and the commander of Ukraine's armed forces. Meanwhile, today, Newsmax CEO Chris Ruddy spoke about the ongoing war at the Aspen Security Forum.
Russia is in a very difficult position right now, and it's not looking good for them. And we fear what Putin might do in these circumstances, and I think that's an item of discussion. In the beginning of this war, and Newsmax and myself have been very strongly supportive of Ukraine. We're pro-Ukraine, pro-NATO. We're also pro-Donald Trump. And you can be all of those things. I think the president thought he had this great relationship with Putin, that just a few phone calls could end this. They meet in Alaska. The president gives him an extraordinary deal, I understand, right? He thought he had a deal coming back. And what does Putin do over the next 2 weeks? He actually escalates, dramatic escalation in the attacks that have continued. So the president has said on some of his remarks, maybe on Twitter, but he's told me personally, that this is not the same man he dealt with in the first term. Something's different.
And today the Kremlin said there is no immediate prospect of resuming peace talks with Ukraine, but the Kremlin says it is open to the idea of negotiations. Coming up, next time you are sitting on the tarmac waiting for your flight to take off, you may be able to cash in. I'll explain when the record continues.
Nobody tells you when you're young that the ceiling you see isn't real. The constraints you feel aren't forever. And this version of you is not final. Your body doesn't have a limit. It's up to you how far you take it.
I know how to make slick-looking goggles/glasses, but I have no idea how to make slick-looking social media stuff.
But GoDaddy Aero uses AI to create social content out of thin air, like this one.
Walton Goggins goggle glasses are great gifts for all guys and gals.
Where's the admission desk at your hospital? You may need it sooner than you think. It's the middle of the night and you, your spouse, or your child is sick, high fever, can't keep anything down, and getting worse. Now you're waiting in the ER, and everyone gets seen before you. And when I finally see you and order prescriptions, you still have to wait for your pharmacy to open and hope they have what I prescribed. This is the medical emergency kit. It's stocked with essential medications, including amoxicillin, generic Z-Pak, and ivermectin. Now you have the right medications when you need them. And it's why I and so many of my colleagues have medical emergency kits. It's like having an urgent care and pharmacy in your home. Just fill out a brief online medical intake and your kit, prescribed by a licensed provider, is shipped to your door. Here's how to order.
Order your kit now and save $45. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news. That's urgentcarekit.com/news.
When it comes to my daily heart health supplement, I've got 3 rules. It's got to be plant-based, it's got to be doctor recommended, and it's got to be Super Beets from Human.
Super Beets is the #1 cardiologist recommended beet brand for heart health support with clinically studied grapeseed extract for nearly 2 times more effective blood pressure support than diet and exercise alone.
Super Beets works. I swear by it, and I know you're going to love it too.
Try Super Beets today at human.com.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
These days, supporting the right causes matters more than ever. That's why I chose Patriot Mobile. They're not just a great mobile service provider, they're all about giving back. Every bill helps support causes we believe in: family, faith, and freedom. You get great nationwide coverage on all 3 main networks. Even better, you're doing it with an American company that stands up for us. It's time to make the switch, y'all. Let's support a wireless company that's got our back. Go to patriotmobile.com and make the switch today.
Check this out. This is a live look at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. That is where the World Cup final is happening on Sunday. Trump will be there. Look at that air. Wildfire smoke is still painting the skies black and creating dangerous air quality. Smoke is coming from fires in Canada and Minnesota. National Weather Service is warning that the flames in Minnesota will not end anytime soon.
These fires create their own weather. So even without the wind that drives fire, when you get enough fire on the landscape, like we have in the backcountry and the backwaters area right now, it lives and breathes itself. How are we going to end this? Weather's going to have to change. I tell my neighbors down in the southeast part of the country, it takes rain with a name to put out big fires. Odds are these fires will be here until it snows.
Meteorologist Julia Fife joins me. Julia.
Hey, Greta, yes, we're still dealing with that wildfire smoke moving in from Canada. We've got that high pressure that's just kind of twirling in, creating that conveyor belt of that smoke all the way from the Great Lakes moving into the northeast. Here's a look at our air quality index. Some areas have seen the worst air quality in history across portions of the Great Lakes. You can see that maroon color across portions of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan as well. And it's going to continue to deteriorate as that continues to track in that eastward direction. Now, right now, New York dealing with that unhealthy air, but you can see our smoke futurecast as it just continues to move in that eastern direction. The worst of it is going to be this evening. You can see that purple color over New York City, and then it starts to dip into D.C. as we head early into tomorrow morning, and then New York going to start getting hit with it once again on Saturday. The good news is I am tracking a system moving through Saturday night into Sunday, so I do think hopefully by Sunday that'll start to clear out for New York City. They have issued those air quality alerts all the way from Minnesota down into Washington, D.C., up into New Hampshire and Vermont as well. Now, normally when I talk about these air quality alerts, I talk about respiratory issues and refraining from being too much outdoors, but this goes for everyone. Even if you're absolutely healthy, you're going to want to refrain from spending too much time outdoors. This could cause some serious issues if you're spending too much time, especially if you're doing exercise outside. Now, down south, we've got a flooding problem. This has been an issue we've been tracking all morning long. We've got those training showers and thunderstorms. Due to that subtropical jet that's moving in from the Pacific, we still have some active flash flood emergencies going on in portions of the hill country that goes down in Uvalde as well. But we do have one confirmed death earlier this morning due to the flooding. And we still have that flood watch in place for good portions of southwest Texas into tomorrow. We're still expecting more rain through the overnight, so we'll likely see more flash flood warnings heading into tomorrow. Here's a look at some of those top rainfall totals over the past 3 days. Portions of Texas have seen over 25 inches, Uvalde over 20 inches. Now, this is rivaling that storm we had last year on July 4th. That was devastating. Back to you, Greta.
Julia, Fife, thanks. And also, when you think of floods and air quality, think of your pets as well. They breathe like we do. And are we living in a Seinfeld episode?
I'll bet you that flight to Pittsburgh takes off before my flight to Houston. You bet? No, I bet not. Friendly way. Oh, come on. Keep things interesting to pass the time.
Okay, how much?
How about 200?
You're on, cowboy.
In that scene from 1995, Kramer was betting on which airline flight departs first. 31 years after that Seinfeld episode, we now have this. It is Kalshi. It is an online prediction platform. Kalshi has just filed paperwork with the federal government to bet on airport problems. This week, the company filed with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. Kalshi, if approved, will allow people to bet on the percentage of flights canceled at any airport in a certain time period. The Kalshi news has sparked a lot of attention, especially on social media. Some people said it's fun and that they can now get rich from delays. Others worry that it could incentivize even more delays. And some said pilots and air traffic controllers might cash in since they have firsthand knowledge and even control of flight times. Meanwhile, a teleprompter operator for the White House is reportedly under investigation. He allegedly has been using Kalshi to bet on President Trump's speeches, and he's made more than $100,000. Earlier today, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt was asked about the teleprompter operator. Here's what she said.
Obviously, I'm aware of the report. The president is too. I spoke with him about it. He believes it's deeply unfortunate and frankly a disgrace. And the individual that was cited in that report is complying with the CFTC but has been put on paid administrative leave. So there will be a teleprompter operator tonight, of course, but it will not be the one, unfortunately, in that story.
Coming up, one big city in America is becoming just like Amsterdam. How? That answer when the record continues. People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for the record on Newsmax.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
For 250 years, America has depended on the courage of those who serve. They've defended our freedom and helped us become the nation we are today. At Wounded Warrior Project, we honor the past by building a better future for post-9/11 veterans, service members, and their families. They've given us their best. Join us in supporting them through the next 250 years of strength and resilience. Visit woundedwarriorproject.org/USA250.
My dad has never been in better shape. He had a stroke and passed away. He had a life insurance policy. Ethos.com. In 10 minutes, you can be covered with life insurance.
Check your price today
at ethos.com.
Fanapt iloperidone is approved for adults with bipolar 1 disorder with acute mixed or manic episodes. Unlike some drugs for bipolar 1 disorder, nausea, vomiting, and restlessness are not common with Fanapt. Fanapt may be associated with serious side effects. Elderly patients with dementia-related psychosis treated with antipsychotics are at increased risk of stroke or death. Fanapt is not approved for elderly with dementia-related psychosis. Fanapt prolongs the QT interval and may be associated with abnormal heart rhythm or sudden death. In 5% or more of people in clinical trials, heart rate increases, dizziness, hypotension, weight gain, dry mouth, stuffy nose, sleepiness, and increases in liver enzymes have been observed. These are not all the side effects. Talk to your prescriber and learn more at fanapt.com. By Vanda Pharmaceuticals.
Almost half of women runners say safety is their biggest concern. Majority of us have to constantly change routes, start times.
Instead of thinking of my pace, we worry about being followed, unwanted attention, and stuff that is simply scary.
Imagine this banana was a less lethal device, capable of incapacitating an attacker, letting you get to safety. At Byrna, we don't sell bananas. Go to Byrna.com to find how you can always safely make it to the finish line.
Oh no, is this the episode with the breakup?
Reba, we can't agree on the house.
Y'all need Realtor.com. With over 500,000 new listings every month, you could find the one today.
This could be it.
Better put a key ring on it. Realtor.com.
Nobody knows Corvettes like McMulkin Chevrolet, the world's largest Corvette dealer for 5 consecutive years. Set apart by its name alone, Corvette delivers a legacy of American craftsmanship, and a vehicle that sets the bar for performance cars deserves a buying experience that beats it. With hundreds of Corvettes in stock and ready for immediate delivery nationwide, it's no wonder Corvette enthusiasts from across the USA keep coming back to McMulkin Chevrolet.
The state of California led the way in banning indoor smoking. 1995, it was the first state to prohibit smoking in bars and restaurants. And now, smoking is making a comeback. California is allowing people to smoke, not cigarettes, but pot. San Francisco just passed a measure allowing cannabis cafes. The bill says cannabis sellers can now serve food and non-alcoholic drinks. Patrons can also light up inside the cafes as long as they dine in. The bill now heads to the mayor's desk for his signature. So how is this legal? Well, in 2024, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a bill to legalize cannabis cafes. At the federal level, cannabis is still illegal. And don't forget, I have a podcast called Greta Wire. It's free. You can subscribe to Greta Wire on your favorite podcast app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or at newsmax.com/listen. Thank you for watching. Ed Henry, The Big Take, is next. Stay with Newsmax.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.